What do the estimated $60 billion collapse of cryptocurrency Terra Luna and the $30 billion collapse of the crypto exchange FTX have in common? Both of these collapses happened exactly on blood moon events, yet nobody seems to be making the obvious connection here, which is mind-blowing. There were two blood moons in 2022. The first one was on May 15th, and the other one was just a couple months ago on November 8th. Now that the dust has settled after the collapse of FTX on November 8th, it's really clear what the blood moon omens actually mean. And the more I dug into this topic of what really happened during the blood moons of 2022, the more I was shocked that nobody online seemed to be connecting the dots wherever I was looking. When it comes to blood moons, 99% of people are just looking in the wrong places. They think these signs only apply to the small country in the Middle East known as Israel. What I'm going to show you is that this is a whole lot bigger than that. Now that we're in the Gregorian year 2023, I thought this would be the perfect time to reflect on what we just witnessed last year. And make no mistake about it, the Bible makes it very clear that these blood moons are signs to be paying close attention to before the coming of the day of Yehovah, or the day of the Lord. We also see in Revelation that a future blood moon will occur that will also cause a great earthquake and major cosmic disturbances at the same time. So what was the message that God has already presented to us, and what can we expect moving forward? Let's talk about it. Welcome back to Overcome Babylon. I'm Abraham Ojeda. Really excited about today's topic. Blood moons. I had written about blood moons last year before they had happened. I wrote an article about the May 15th blood moon that was going to happen. Then I wrote an article after the fact, but I never talked about the November 8th blood moon. And so I'm going to talk about all the events that happened. And like I mentioned, quite frankly, I haven't seen anybody really analyze and look in the past and see what happened, what really happened, and what we can learn from all this. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. Again, this is probably one of the few places on the internet that authoritatively speaks to the fact that we are, without a shadow of a doubt, in the last days that the Bible talks about, and I can prove it to you with biblical calculations going off of Genesis 6:3 and so forth. So there's a little timer on the bottom of the screen here. If that doesn't make sense to you, go to overcomebabylon.com, download my free report, and it'll all make sense. So talking about today's topic, blood moons. What a lot of people are guilty of, I noticed, is like different ministries, podcasts, YouTube channels, whatever. They'll kind of hype up, oh, there's a blood moon coming, there's a blood moon, or a total lunar eclipse, same thing. There's these events coming astronomically, pay attention, and that, a lot of Christian ministries and so forth are like, this is God's warning. Oh, tribulation's about to happen. There's all these things that are about to happen. And then the actual blood moon happens, and hardly anybody is like, okay, let's take a deep look at what was going on in the world and see what that actually meant. And so today I'm going to actually talk about what the two blood moons of 2022 actually are saying, really. And like I said, I haven't seen anybody connect the dots here. Really, really excited. I had written some articles last year talking about the May 16th, 15th blood moon, which this physically literally saw on May 15th. I wrote a couple articles about it, and I just want to talk about some things there because, yeah, I was kind of wrong. I was talking, before it happened, I was saying, hey, I'm kind of agreeing with Cyrus Harding, get ready. We might have food shortages because Poland's bread prices quadrupled once the Ukrainian invasion happened. German grocery stores were reporting, hikes of 20 to 50% on groceries. There was infant formula rationing. Remember that? That was a big deal. And I was like, I think this is going to continue. I think with this May 15th blood moon back in 2022, I think this is going to, we're going to see some crazy stuff happening with grocery prices. And it was kind of right and kind of wrong. I was kind of wrong because, we didn't see hyperinflation, which kind of, I was kind of hinting at that. Oh my gosh, things are going to spiral out of control overnight. In Weimar Republic, pre-World War II Germany, bread was literally $1,000 a loaf or whatever. I don't know. I haven't, anyways. But I was kind of leaning towards that, oh my gosh, food might get really expensive or something like that. So I was kind of wrong, but I was kind of right too, because if you've been to the grocery stores lately in the United States, everything's a heck of a lot more expensive than it was in 2020, 2019, certainly. 2021 even. And so, yeah, things have gotten more expensive, but we haven't seen the total out of control hyperinflation. But I wrote these articles, and this is what really happened. Now, before we talk about what really happened in the cryptocurrency markets, which is the focus of today, I want to point your attention to the fact that I had been emailing my good friend Cyrus Harding. He is a biblical astronomer. I had him on the podcast. He really shared some awesome insights with us. I recommend checking that episode out if you have not already. And when I was first trying to understand biblical astronomy and these things, which I'm still a rookie, I consider myself a rookie. I consider somebody like Cyrus to be advanced for sure. And he emailed me this back in January of 2022, so literally almost a year ago. We were talking, and I was trying to understand astronomy and stuff like that and how it relates to prophecy in the Bible. And he was like, yeah, if you see a solar eclipse within 2 weeks or just about 2 weeks of a lunar eclipse, then that's what's considered a super cycle. And so I was like, okay, a super cycle. I've never heard this terminology before. And now I know what he's talking about, because after witnessing not just one, but 2 super cycles, like I'm showing you on screen here, in 2022, it all makes sense how this all played out. And it's absolutely mind-blowing. Let's just define what we're talking about here. Like I already mentioned with that email that I showed you from Cyrus, he's just saying, hey, if a solar eclipse happens within 2 weeks of a lunar eclipse, so solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, that classifies as super cycle depending on the different parameters for the radiation intensity, the gamma ray intensity, which I'm not going to get into that. That's honestly above my pay grade a little bit, because you got to look at different observatories and do some calculations and stuff like that. And I'm not there. I just want to talk about kind of like a high level overview of what really happened. But the bottom line is we had this April 30th solar eclipse, and then 15 days later we had the total lunar eclipse, also known as a blood moon, May 15th, and it was visible in North America, as I'll show you in a second. But we also had another super cycle, okay? The first super cycle was April to May. Then the second super cycle was October to November. Specifically October 25th, there was a solar eclipse. And then November 8th was the blood moon that caused a lot of chaos in the world. And I'll show you what happened. Again, the problem people have is they only think that these things apply to the land of Israel, but it is actually the regions that see the blood moons that are within the vicinity of the total lunar eclipses. Those are the regions that are affected by an event. Because remember, these are God's signs. These are his heavens. It's his firmament. It's his lights that he put up there. And he's like, hey, I'm showing you things. So let's pay attention to what he's saying. Real quick, I want to make an announcement. So I'm excited to launch officially now the Overcome Babylon store. And as you can see, I'm wearing one of my new hats. It's got Yeshua on it within the Hebrew letters and also English. But I'm really excited about it. It's our official store. I had said something in the Telegram saying, hey, our store's live. Go check it out. A few people bought some items, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you so much for your support and for your love of what we're doing here. And thank you for valuing what we're doing here. I appreciate you. But I want to also just kind of now officially announce that we have our store. We're live now. So we kind of worked out some bugs with the payment processing and all the little stuff. So we're good to go. So if you want to support the channel, we don't really make a ton of money on the hats and beanies. But hey, it's $5 here and there. It's kind of cool. It helps me, pay the bills around here. So with that being said, let's take a look at that first super cycle event of May. This is from timeanddate.com. Look at what happened here. So I already played this animation at the beginning of this episode, but you can see that the regions that saw this total lunar eclipse, this blood moon, it really was concentrated in the Americas, specifically the East Coast of the United States, and also, South America. That's where it was the most visible, but also, the West Coast could see it, Africa could see it, all the way to barely the Middle East. But yeah, the Middle East could see it as well. Actually, what am I talking about? A lot of the Middle East. I was looking at the wrong area. Yeah, Israel could see it. So it was visible. And again, wherever the blood moon is visible, those are the areas that are kind of affected or could be affected by a major event. And what no one really in the biblical prophetic area or category, whatever you want to call it, genre, of content online or whatever, I haven't seen anybody talk about the fact that this happened, okay? This was, I can't remember off the top of my head. So I personally invested in cryptocurrency in the year 2022 and 2021. And I can tell you that I know personally people that were affected by what I'm showing you on screen here. And if you're not a trader, if you're not a technical analyst when it comes to like understanding a stock market or cryptocurrency markets, don't sweat it. I'm going to keep it really simple. But basically, you had this one of the top cryptocurrency projects of 2022, at least early 2022, super hot. Everybody was really excited about this project. It was defying all odds and expectations. It was outperforming Bitcoin. Bitcoin had dropped so much in price after the last super cycle from 2021 going into 2022. And so Bitcoin had really cut a lot of its value, lost a lot of its market cap. And so when you're looking at this chart here, just understand that people were excited about Luna. There was influencers of all kinds on YouTube pushing Luna, and talking about how it was so revolutionary. And what ended up happening is it peaked at about $119 for one token. And in just about like a few weeks, it ended up being worth less than a penny. And again, you might be thinking, well, that's no big deal. It's just like this happens all the time, right? No, this represented over $60 billion. That's just an estimate, but this was billions of dollars on the line here. And literally people got liquidated. So many people lost money. I personally know people that lost multiple six figures on this, people losing homes, committing suicide. It was a really big event. But what's really interesting about it is you can see right here on screen that this happened right in the middle of in the super cycle. So the cycle started April 30th, and guess what happened? By the time May 8th came around, a lot of something was going on with Luna, and all of a sudden, bam! It literally became worth less than a penny right as the total lunar eclipse happened. So the start of the cycle, something was already happening with this project. It represented over $60 billion. And then it was completely wiped out by the end of the super cycle. And if you want more information on what happened here, I can't stress enough. I highly recommend CoffeeZilla. His YouTube channel is quite amazing. He's one of my favorites when it comes to investigative journalism on scams, Ponzi schemes, and all these kinds of issues in the internet, but like throughout business and throughout the world. He's done such a good job talking about crypto, specifically the collapse of Terra Luna, and as we're going to talk about a little later, the collapse of FTX, because this is kind of CoffeeZilla's category of content. He likes to cover these Ponzi schemes because ultimately, what most people don't realize about cryptocurrency is that it's a Ponzi scheme. Okay, all of them are Ponzi's. They're really based on nothing. They're based off of ideology, and you think you have something that's valuable, but really, at the end of the day, it's a digital bunch of numbers, like zeros and ones. It's not linked or in any way, shape, or form to tangible physical assets. It's just imaginary. It's trading your imaginary fiat money for another form of imaginary money. Okay, and that's the hard reality that a lot of people don't want. And you might, if you're a crypto fan coming into this, I know I might be stepping on your toes a little bit, but just understand that I have not seen a legitimate crypto project that's actually like gold backed or some kind of commodities backed or something, and they all eventually crash and burn. From what I've been witnessing over my short period of time, I started looking at crypto in 2021. Even before that, I was very interested in it. I've always been kind of keeping an eye on, like, okay, let me start investing. And yeah, there was money in it when the money printer was on in the United States, but now we're seeing that bubble pop. And what I'm going to suggest throughout this presentation is that crypto was the weakest link in the chain of the financial system and the infrastructure that we've currently been living in for a while now, since the Federal Reserve was created, 1913. We've been living in this system of fiat, the petrodollar, specifically the petrodollar. We've been living in this system, and what I'm saying is, like, yeah, 2001, there's a dot-com bubble. Yeah, the 2008, 2009 real estate crash was bad. What I'm going to say is that there's a bigger crash coming, like a lot of people are warning. And the cryptocurrency markets were the first weakest link, the most speculation, the most get-rich-quick mentality, the most reckless money was in crypto, and it literally, we're starting to see it completely collapse. And I'm going to show you what that all means. But here's an article from Bloomberg. This is from May 24th. Again, the Luna finished, it started crashing on like May 11th, even a little bit before that. And by the time May 15th came around, it was totally wiped out. Billions of dollars lost. But this Bloomberg article is saying 83 billion. That's how much of a slump. That's how much Terra Luna affected the markets in decentralized finance or cryptocurrency. Okay, and yeah, that was, see what I'm saying? It was a really big event. Enron, when Enron capitulated in the early thousands, Enron being a natural gas and energy company in the United States. When they filed for bankruptcy, I think it was tens of billions, maybe 10, 11 billion. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this was just as big as Enron, maybe even bigger than Enron, but maybe we've just gotten desensitized or something. But this was a massive event directly tied to the blood moons. And like I said, nobody's really talking about it. I'm going to talk about the repercussions here, because you're going to start to see a trend. You're going to start to see a pattern. I'm going to show you the pattern of what is happening. And there's an article that was just released today. I am filming this right now. It is January 6th, 2023. There was an article that was released today by Zero Hedge that completely encapsulates and summarizes everything that I'm talking about in this presentation. So make sure you stick around to the very end, because this article is going to tie it all together in a way that it ties into the 70 Shabuah Decoded and so on and so forth. So this is what Al Jazeera had to say. After Terra Luna crashes, regulators count the cost of crypto. Okay? And so what you have to understand here is that Terra Luna, and I haven't even talked about what Terra Luna is, but just understand that it was something that people thought they could make money with, get rich quick with. The pitch was, this is like a bank, put your money in it, and you get 20% passive income just for having your money inside of Anchor protocol. I'm not going to get too geeky with the details here, guys. Just understand that there was this crypto project called Terra Luna. There's a bunch of things built underneath this blockchain, and one of those things was Anchor protocol, and it was promising 20% stable returns. That is, until there was a bank run, and it collapsed. I mean, it literally collapsed overnight because too many people started withdrawing their money. In the UST, the Terra, the UST being the digital version of the US dollar, it couldn't maintain its $1 value peg. And that's true of all algorithmic stablecoins. No algorithmic stablecoin backed by nothing except for math and computations or whatever, no algorithmic stablecoin has ever survived. They all eventually crash. So anyways, without getting too geeky in the details, just understand that Terra was a massive project, Enron-sized scandal, lost value overnight, basically. And so what I want to focus on, rather than the geeky details, is that immediately regulators are like, oh, we need to start regulating crypto. We need to start regulating crypto. And that's what this article is talking about. Again, this is an article published by Cointelegraph talking about how Terra's collapse will impact future stablecoin regulations. And this is what it says. The collapse of the Terra ecosystem, which subsequently depegged its algorithmic stablecoin Terra USD value and crashed it to an all-time low of 30 cents, has cast doubt over the future of not just algorithmic stablecoins, but all stablecoins in general. And so, there was a lot of talk like, oh, should we start treating all of these coins and projects as securities? What's the SEC going to do? What are lawmakers going to do? This is what this article says. Again, Cointelegraph did a really good job covering this right after the whole fiasco, that U.S. regulators are using the incident as grounds to push for more stringent rules around stablecoins and their issuers, with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen announcing plans for legislation by the end of the year. Yellen said it would be highly appropriate to aim for a consistent federal framework on stablecoins by the end of 2022, given the growth of the market. And I talked about this not only in my blog, but I talked about this, that what happened in the aftermath of this blood moon on May 15th it was going to start to affect more than just it wasn't just Luna and all these investors losing their hard-earned money and their savings. It was going to bleed into more of the crypto markets and even the stock market. And so what I said is that more crypto companies are going to start to go bankrupt. If you look at my Twitter, and so what happened by July, so that happened in May, June, regulation. Oh my gosh, we need to regulate. By July, you had Tesla, who had purchased a ton of Bitcoin in 2022. They started dumping their Bitcoin. BlockFi basically went bankrupt. Celsius went bankrupt. Voyager went bankrupt. Three Arrows Capital went bankrupt. You have all these cryptocurrency companies and projects and all these things going bust after Terra Luna. And it literally happened no more than just 2 to 3 months after the Luna collapse. Like, the whole crypto world just started completely deteriorating. And so that was the Terra Luna incident. Now I want to talk about the other super cycle event, and I want to talk about what happened with FTX, which is more recent, more fresh in people's minds. Terra Luna is kind of like, okay, that happened, but this is beyond coincidence for me. If one cryptocurrency project that was bigger than Enron, the Enron scandal, crashed and completely collapsed and so many people lost their money during the first super cycle, I was already very suspicious myself going into the November 8th. I was like, wow, something big is going to happen in crypto, probably. And it's going to be used as the scapegoat. It's going to be used whether it was manufactured or whether it was just a legitimate Ponzi scheme and like no one saw it coming. I doubt that. But whether, however you want to look at it, I knew there was going to be another crypto-related event to push this agenda of the central bank digital currencies. And sure enough, when you look at the November 7th to 8th blood moon, it was highly visible in the North America again, but also Russia. If you look at this on screen here with me, it was visible. This is where the visibility was. So we knew that it could impact the U.S., it could impact South America, Australia, it could impact different areas. And what we found is that, here's another project. Okay, this is FTT token, which was the cryptocurrency of FTX, which I'll explain more on that in a second. But look at this coin. Again, what did I say? I said October 25th was the solar eclipse. And then, 14 days later, what happens? Look, FTX, it's doing pretty good. October 31st comes around. And, it starts to dip a little bit. It recovers. November 4th comes around, 4 days before the blood moon. And then all of a sudden, literally, it starts crashing. Something's going on. And then, bam, the day of the blood moon, it's game over for this. We literally see this coin go from $25 down to $2. So you're probably wondering at this point, what is FTX? What is FTT? What does this have to do with the blood moons? What does this have to do with Bible prophecy? What does this have to do with anything? Okay. And so the major player that you need to be aware of is a guy named Sam Bankman-Fried. I believe that's his name. Sam Bankman-Fried. When you look at who this guy is, he's got a very interesting background, very interesting. I'm not going to cover all the details here. Quite frankly, other people have already done it way better. And again, I recommend going to CoffeeZilla's channel. Go watch this video. It's entitled "It Got So Much Worse." He breaks down step by step everything that happened with the FTX collapse. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of his. And like he's saying here, the White House immediately came out and said, oh, we need to start regulating crypto after the FTX scandal. And the funny thing is that Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder and the CEO of FTX, he was donating to the Democratic Party. He was funneling money to Ukraine. Like, there's all these things that were going on with FTX. And so just be aware that, there's a lot of funny business. So who is Sam Bankman-Fried? He's supposedly he's this guy that he's just a college dude, whatever, youngest billionaire. He just comes out of nowhere, makes an exchange for trading cryptocurrency, just kind of like the New York Stock Exchange or whatever. But he makes this platform called FTX where you can trade crypto, buy and sell crypto. And, he basically had a lot of startup capital to pull it off. He put together a team, and all of a sudden he had this website, ftx.com, and people were trading crypto on it, okay? And, they make money through fees, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's, his claim to fame as far as that goes. But what other investigative journalists have uncovered is that he's been arrested, okay, after this whole incident just 2 months ago. He's been arrested. What ended up being revealed is that this cryptocurrency exchange, not only was it being used to funnel money to different areas, but there was basically a back door inside of this exchange for Sam to come in and basically take the money from customers' accounts and use it, funnel it to his other company, or at least a partner, Alameda Research, and funnel the money over there without anybody noticing. There's some kind of an algorithm. There's some kind of a backdoor where transactions were private. They were concealed from anybody who would be kind of supervising or paying attention or monitoring the accounts. So he was funneling money from customers' accounts and using it for whatever. And so basically FTX was a giant Ponzi scheme where SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, he used the platform to just funnel money for whatever, Democratic Party of the United States, whatever. He was doing all these things. And the reason that it all kind of finally came to a head and this basically giant scam was exposed finally is because suddenly there was somebody that came on the scene on November 6th, okay? On November 6th, just a few days before the blood moon and the whole entire collapse of the FTT token and the FTX platform, the whole collapse, it actually started with a Twitter. and it really blows my mind that Twitter, a tweet, can have so much power. And I know there's probably more going on behind the scenes, but there's this tweet that came out from CZ, Sheng Zhao, I believe is how you say his name. But he is the CEO of basically a competitor. Well, at least FTX no longer exists at this point. But FTX was like the number 2 crypto exchange. Binance was number 1 worldwide. And so Binance comes in and they basically say, hey, we are having some issues and some questions about FTX. And this is what he tweeted, CZ. As part of Binance's exit from FTX equity last year, Binance received roughly 2.1 billion USD equivalent in cash in both BUSD and FTT. Due to recent revelations that have come to light, we have decided to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books. And so basically, he started the conversation, the elephant in the room. Hey, there's something that doesn't really add up with FTT and FTX. He's basically talking about there's maybe some transparency issues. He's basically saying, hey, we had equity and we decided we're deciding to liquidate our holdings. And for somebody to have that much money in a token, it made everybody nervous. It basically started and engineered a bank run on the FTX platform. People started selling their FTT in kind of a panic because there were rumors and suspicions that basically FTX was insolvent. They're actually not able to pay their investors. They don't actually have the money that they claim to have in their accounts. This was the rumor that was kind of going on, and it eventually ended up being true, right? But so what ended up happening is Binance, they're like, we're going to liquidate our tokens, these FTT tokens, which is the coin of FTX. Like that's like you can buy it and have reduced fees and blah, blah, blah. They're like, okay, we're going to liquidate our holdings because something's not right with FTX. And then they said this afternoon, this was on November 8th, FTX asked for our help. There is a significant liquidity crunch. People are exiting the market. They're exiting FTX. To protect users, we signed a non-binding LOI intending to fully acquire FTX.com and help cover the liquidity crunch. We will be conducting a full DD in the coming days. So basically, they're going to do their due diligence, and they were saying, hey, we're interested in acquiring FTX, buying them out, and then they're going to basically swallow the whole entire market because then Binance would basically be in control, in charge of crypto even more, which is, really the opposite of how crypto is supposed to be in theory. It's supposed to be decentralized, but if Binance, it's true now. They became like the biggest exchange after FTX disappeared. But at the time, if they were, the idea was, wow, they're going to acquire FTX. It's like, wait a minute. I was thinking to myself, wow, cryptocurrency is about to get a heck of a lot more centralized under CZ and Binance. But anyways, so he's like, we're going to do our due diligence. We're going to buy out FTX. And really what it was just a bunch of optics, because there was a post, another tweet that said, as a result of corporate due diligence, as well as the latest news reports regarding mishandled customer funds and alleged U.S. agency investigations, we have decided that we will not pursue the potential acquisition of FTX.com. And that is when it completely hit the fan for FTX. I mean, yeah, FTT was doing bad. It had already crashed at that point, ridiculously. And then it just went to, less than $1 in value. The token was one issue. But then, Binance basically said, they've mishandled customer funds. There's reports, there's these allegations, and we're backing out. And that's when FTX completely collapsed. And again, a lot of people were affected by this, just like they were affected by Celsius and BlockFi and all these cryptos that have been literally crashed and burned to the ground last year. There's so much just nuclear bombs going off in the, I don't know what you would call alternative financial market, not the stock market and all that, but there's literal Armageddon happening in crypto. And the two biggest events, hands down, the two biggest events happen on blood moons. And it's so clear to me what God is showing us in the heavens with regards to these events that you had. Again, I've seen estimates. I'll finish that down in a moment, but I've heard estimates about FTX and how much money was lost, was liquidated, disappeared from the market. I've seen estimates anywhere from 15 billion to 32 billion to 40 billion. I don't know. Who knows the true number? There's money laundering going on. There's all these crazy things going on with FTX, the exchange being used for, whatever. God knows what kinds of atrocities it was being used for as a platform. And so what God is showing us so clearly, in my opinion, is that these cryptocurrency events, these blood moons being directly tied to the biggest crypto liquidations we have ever seen, ever. What we're being shown here, in my opinion, is that the narrative has now been set for a digital currency to be used worldwide, which, again, this was prophesied in the book of Revelation a long time ago, that there will be a one world currency. No one can buy or sell without receiving a mark. To me, that's a one world currency, right? We all speculate that's a one world currency, but no one's going to be able to buy or sell without taking a mark on their forehead, on their forehead or on the right hand. To me, this has now set the stage for people to, I'm talking about the average investor, just like your everyday person. They got screwed over in cryptocurrency last year. Like all the retail, what you would call retail investors, the average person is totally disgruntled and disenfranchised and totally got ripped off in cryptocurrency last year. So that's the one side of it. But on the other side of it, so they're disenfranchised, they're pissed off, people are totally angry, totally burned out, depressed. Not only is there's that side of the coin, but the other side is now, out of the chaos of what happened last year, now all of a sudden governments, regulatory bodies are like, okay, it's time to usher in a digital currency. People have been exposed to this idea of crypto and digital currencies. They've been exposed to this. Now let's take advantage of the fact that, that things went so wrong in the private sector, quote unquote private sector. Things went so wrong with these blockchains and all these projects. What you really need is you need a central bank digital currency. You need a digital currency that you can trust, that's issued by the government. And it'll be faster, cheaper, it'll be better than a credit card, it'll be more secure. They're going to pitch it all these different ways. And they're going to say, the whole private crypto thing is illegal. You can really only have a government issued crypto. That's the only legal crypto now, or currency, digital currency. And so this article here is from the New Atlanticist, and they're saying it's official. The United States is developing a bank-to-bank digital currency. And again, just so obvious that this is the result of the blood moons. Look what it says here. While the world was busy watching the collapse of crypto exchange FTX, the Federal Reserve System made an important move. Funny timing. Interesting timing. Speaking at the Singapore FinTech Festival on November 4th, a senior official from the New York Federal Reserve surprised many in the audience by announcing that for the past several months, probably since that blood moon in May, right? The New York Fed, has been developing a wholesale central bank digital currency designed to, wait for it, here's the pitch, speed up transfers between banks around the world. For those who thought the United States was behind in the digital currency space race, the news was welcome. In a subsequent white paper on the project named Project Cedar, the New York Fed explained that it has already completed stage 1 of testing and proved that international currency transactions could be done both quickly and safely through the blockchain. Interesting. But buried in the technical details was a revealing line on the ambitions of the project. The goal of the new network is to reduce settlement risk in cross-border, cross-currency transactions. The message: we see what the world is doing on CBDCs, and the United States is not going to be left behind. Look, guys, this is what the blood moons were showing us. It's so obvious. It's so obvious now in retrospect. Hindsight is 2020. It's just like the 70 weeks of Daniel, and we couldn't really understand it until the end of the age and last days. Like, we're here now. We can look at this stuff and understand it. Same thing, like, even 2 months ago, I wasn't necessarily totally convinced, like, right when it happened in November 8th, because, like, today's January 6th, so it's, like, almost exactly 2 months ago. Even back then, I wasn't totally convinced. Like, I don't know. Like, does this really have to do with crypto? Like, the blood moons were crypto-related? It's not that the blood moons were crypto-related in so much as they were centralized digital currency-related and one world government-related with cross-border transactions happening, and you need to take a mark in order to have access to payment for your land, for your taxes, whatever. Like, this is the rollout. This is what these blood moons were showing us. And so this was posted by The Hill. This was a newer article. The digital dollar is coming on the back of FTX collapse. This is what it says. The arrest of CEO Sam Bankman-Fried may be the smaller news story coming out of the collapse of FTX. Politicians will miss the point surrounding the massive political donations of the company and instead push for simplistic solutions to a complex issue. Ultimately, the collapse of the crypto company could lead to an onerous federal regulations and the establishment of a federal digital dollar. This is it, guys. This is the push. Order out of chaos. This is the mantra of the ruling class. Order out of chaos. And then, there's these other articles talking about the sheer size of the missing billions of dollars that are unaccounted for, that Sam Bankman-Fried, there he is, he was able to basically move through a back door. And again, it's just in every article that I'm seeing, literally articles that are being released today, like over and over and over again, we need a digital currency. We need to regulate, no more private cryptos, no more competing cryptos. We need to have one digital crypto. And again, this is the article that, of all the articles I've read, this one caught my eye the most. ZeroHedge.com, 2023, the ABCs of CBDC, the Great Reset, and more centralized control. Amazing article here. Again, so if you don't know what CBDC is, it's just central bank digital currency. And this is such a powerful article released just today. And then look what it says. The inevitable Klaus Schwab type. Nowhere is such will to power opportunism and fantasy solutions more exemplified than in the so-called Great Reset authored by the head of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. It goes on to talk about him and how he is going to be instrumental in, again, not letting a good crisis go to waste. He writes about this in his books, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. He says, we cannot let good crises go to waste. He literally says that. I mean, that's a straight quote from him. And so as we go through this article, this is what I really want to point out to you from this article. Enter CBDC, the latest lie from above. And it says, as we now see in the slow yet inevitable evolution of central bank digital currencies, technology can be, in fact, be used to further diminish rather than to enhance human liberties. And it seems that in 2022 and now 2023, everyone is suddenly asking about a CBDC. And they should be. But what is it, okay? I find this an interesting take. To begin with, CBDC is not a new currency, is what they're saying. It's a new payment system, one that is digital and encrypted rather than paper-based. Instead of dollars, yen, lira, and euros, we'll soon have e-dollars, e-yen, e-liras, and e-euros, etc. In short, more crappy fiat money, just digital form. And this is what it says. Furthermore, CBDCs are not cryptos. Yes, they are digital and encrypted and kept in a ledger, but they do not involve blockchain. In essence, and much like a Visa or MasterCard service, CBDC involves a similar ledger technology, but in this new and twisted case, it's controlled rather than distributed ledger of encrypted digital currencies managed by central banks. And so I mostly agree with that statement. I've looked into this enough. Hopefully they didn't go too far over your head, but basically we're looking at a digital form of paper money. It could be printed whenever. It's not on the blockchain because they're going to be able to print it whenever they want. I mean, it's still going to be the same paper money. It's just going to be digital and managed by central banks. And so this is what it says, this article. Like all dangerous, centralized, and controlling ideas, CBDC was snuck in with consoling words during times of crisis. And what I'm going to say here, especially the 2 blood moons that we just saw last year. So again, this author is just pointing out, crypto competition is going to be killed. There's going to be a debt reset, imposing negative rates and screwing the people to usher this in. Eventually, we're going to have a cashless control state. And this is the reality that we're facing. This is what the blood moons were showing us. In my opinion, this is what the blood moons were showing us. I've talked about how I believe there's going to be a preemptive nuclear strike against Jerusalem next year. I believe that there's going to be World War III kicked into high gear, either on that same day of September 22nd, 2023, or right afterwards. But there's going to be crazy events happening. But ultimately, I do believe that in the aftermath of the bombs going off, the aftermath of whatever, because I could be wrong about there being a nuclear event next year. I could be wrong, totally. I admit that. I've never said authoritatively, this is it, take it or leave it. I never said that. But this is to the best of my research, I believe, looking at Daniel, looking at all the prophets, looking at Yeshua, his words, it looks to me like there's going to be nuclear war later this year. Now I can say later this year now, 2023. And so, but in the aftermath of that, and the 10 kings rising up, and the 10 kings destroying Mystery Babylon, the harlot or the whore riding the beast, in the aftermath of all these events, it appears to me that either Klaus Schwab himself, he could be assassinated, who knows, but Klaus Schwab himself or somebody next to him, close to him, or most likely Klaus Schwab himself is going to rise up, claim territory, and we are going to be living under a central bank digital currency. This is the plan. It's being rolled out. The conditioning is there. So whether there's humongous, massive nuclear World War III this year or not, what we were shown in the blood moons is that watch out, central bank digital currency is coming. So with that being said, make sure that you're self-sufficient. Make sure that you're doing the things that you need to be doing to get ready for that and be more basically resilient. Eventually, there's going to be nowhere to run or hide. Only God is going to be able to get us through this time period we're living in. But ultimately, what he was showing us is central bank digital currencies are on the way because private cryptos are being destroyed. And, first of all, I think another lesson too is get your money out of speculative assets, quote unquote assets, speculative imaginary things, and put them into real things, right? Not financial advice, do what you need to do, right? But getting your money in places that actually matter, I think that's a wise move. And, going back to prophecy and looking at what the Bible's showing us, I think it's really clear that, living an agrarian lifestyle, living off the land as best you can, doing these sorts of things, following the God of the Bible the way that he said, not the way that whatever is convenient, but what he actually said, there's a blessing in that. And I've talked about that extensively on this channel. Now, to wrap things up for today, just understand that, I talked about blood moons, aka total lunar eclipses, being super significant events. Here, according to timeanddate.com, here's what we can expect going into the future. Obviously, the Revelation 6:12, the earthquake and the stars falling and all this crazy stuff happening, that didn't happen in these last 2 blood moons. So the next opportunity that we can see for the book of Revelation to unfold with the 6th seal, the next opportunity would be March 14th, 2025. After that, there's another blood moon in September 7th, 2025, March 3rd, 2026, December 31st, 2028, June 26th, 2029. And then, interestingly, December 20th to 21st, 2029, there's also a blood moon there. What I find interesting about this particular date on December 20th and 21st, 2029, right there. And this blood moon being visible, look at that. It's visible, where would that be? All over the world, it looks like. Remember I talked about in an earlier presentation, it was in the regathering episode, that I have basically calculated the two witnesses to be, they're done with their work on December 9th, I think it is, and the regathering can happen anytime. Anyways, that December blood moon there, that's a pretty significant one to me. I think that the regathering will happen either right before that or on that date, just based off of the research I've already done. And then you've got a 2032, and then two 2033 blood moons. So yeah, again, you can check that out for yourself, timeanddate.com. They're pretty accurate. They've got some really good stuff. Anyways, I hope this was helpful to you. I hope that you've maybe considered something that obviously I haven't seen it anywhere, to be honest. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. Hopefully I've helped you to kind of think things through, analyze what's happened in the past. Because oftentimes, we're so quick to move on to the next prophecy, the next thing, the next event, and we're losing sight of the things that we've already been shown by God himself. And I'm guilty of that too, of kind of having, and I think this is true of a lot of believers, a lot of Christians, people of the Bible. There's this shiny object syndrome where it's like, oh, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Oh my gosh. It's like, hold up, slow down, look at the past, learn from history, and see what's already been shown to us. And there's a lot of intel there in astronomy, biblical astronomy, for us to look at, to consider. And anyways, I hope that I've accomplished that goal today. Help you kind of consider an alternative. So with that said, Elohim bless you. Thank you for joining me, and I will catch you next time. Stay tuned for more episodes.
So here I am, broken open, emptied of myself, of my regrets. You said you'd soon return, so I'll light a fire, guard the flame, and let it burn. So here I am, broken open, yours alone. I'll wait the day for you to come, to go back home. So please don't you tear it alone.